Yeah, so there we go live. Hi, all. I welcome you all to Meshery's weekly development meeting. It happens on every Wednesday, and we talk about Meshery as a CNCF project, as the ninth fastest growing CNCF project. Its feature roadmap and all the work that and efforts that contributors like you and me have been putting in it. So, and Tier 2 will be continuing on that. We'll also be covering some standing agenda items. We'll be welcoming newcomers, and hopefully, if you have not yet, started working on any item, you will definitely get something to be exploring or, working on. So I recommend that you all head on to this docs. That's also our meeting minutes for this call. You can mark your attendance by writing your name in the attendees, and if you have any issues or PRs on Mystery project, you can also list them down, like many of you have already done. So we'll be sure to cover them if there's time for that. As of now, I'm taking a look at participants list, and I would like any one of you who may be joining this call for the very first time to unmute yourself and give your quick intro. Uh, I think that it's first time for Arpit. So Arpit, do you mind introducing yourself to the committee members?
Hello everyone, I'm Arpit. I'm from India, Bangalore. So last week only I joined Meshery. I'm interested in Golang communities, and the fascinating thing I knew about Meshery was the management of all the mm, service meshes that are there. And currently I'm thinking of working mm, as a student only. I'm second year in second year college, and I'm interested in working in the mysteries CTL. So any help would be very much appreciated. And great to
Awesome.
talk to you all, guys.
Hey, thank you for your intro. And yeah, so we initially did have our focus on service meshes, but like project has grown way beyond that. So it's capable of wrangling many cloud-native infrastructure and many other public providers of cloud too. So and we have extensive docs on those topics. I'll be sure to link them in chat. But yeah, definitely you will be. We do need help in Mesh CTL and Golang specific items. So there are others on the call like Savik. They'll definitely help you out find your first issues to work on. Thank you for your intro and joining the call. Ranit, is it the first time that you're joining this call? If yes, do you mind giving your introduction?
No, it's actually my second time joining here. Yes, previous meeting I also happened to join.
Yeah, fine. Sai Kiran, I think you're also newcomer on the call. Just a heads up, if you have any audio issues, you can give the introduction in chat as well. So Sai
Yeah.
Kiran, okay,
Okay. Can you all hear me now?
yeah.
Okay. So yeah, hi. I'm Saiken Somangador. I'm currently a sophomore studying in masters at Illinois Institute of Technology. I've joined 2 weeks back actually, and I'm currently interested in mostly the front-end development of Meshery, and I'm excited about the UI design and other stuff. And I'm happy to working forward in this community. Nice to meet you all.
Hey,
Thank you.
that's really great. And thank you for giving your intro and joining the call. Since you mentioned that how you're interested into UI development, we weekly have this standing agenda items in one of the sites called where we take contributors on various technology that we have in the projects and kind of walk through them like how they can build on it and get started. So if you would like to, there I would be dropping a link to the training session that we had on MUI migration and also System, which is our in-house design system. So hopefully, I think that would give you some idea. And in fact, we have the next standing agenda item from Amit. He will be telling us about UI migration. So you also can look in these specific areas. Thanks a lot for your intro and for being on the call. Looks like that is it for all the newcomers. If you are yet to give your introduction and are basically a newcomer, make sure that you do through the chat. We will now be rolling with agenda items. And the first one would be about component updates on Meshy CTL and UI migration. I'll be quickly taking a look if we have Matthew, who is also a CLI maintainer. And yep, he's there. Matthew, do you mind taking us through the progress on Meshy CTL?
Yep. One second.
So while you're doing that, Matthew, I think I missed some of the announcements. So I'll quickly try to cover them. First one would be about renaming of Slack workspace. And so, in fact, you will find Slack workspaces linked through the header of this docs. Let me quickly share that. So just a minute. Yeah, so do share with other, your colleagues or, friends who also would want to be a part of the community. So there goes the Slack workspaces link. So if you notice, it's been renamed to Meshery. That is in part of us following some of the activities that has to be done with the incubation proposal of Meshery. Next up, yep, so there was some proposal around having a specific and separate channel for Meshery, where we'll be live streaming all such development meeting and any project specific, items. So there's that. And creation of new Git repo on meet.meshery.io. So Lee, would you like to add anything on these, or anyone else who has any other context than what I just shared?
Yeah, sure. Just like you were saying, Meshery it's a CNCF sandbox project. It's up for review to move into the incubation level. As part of that, we're just doing additional diligence to ensure that that each of the resources that get used primarily for purposes of advancing the project sort of represent the project first class. An example being like the Slack workspace that we use for up until earlier today, it was the layer 5 Slack workspace. Layer 5 is sort of the organization that created Meshery and did so openly kind of from day one. We're coming up on kind of 5 years of Meshery soon. Layer 5 as an organization that's comprised of, well, many of you, I'm part of it, and then any number of you are as well. As a matter of fact, any of you that stay here long enough, I would expect you start to identify with that open source community. Anyway, it has a number of projects, and it's a small organization. You can see the community members on layer5.io, those that have been meaningfully participating in a lot of the projects that it had started. 2 of the projects that Layer 5 started were donated to the CNCF. And then there's a few other open source, not a few, there's quite a few other open source projects that Layer 5 stewards that it had done so in this Slack called Layer 5 Workspace, the Layer 5 Slack workspace. It's, I guess the proper name for a Slack account is a workspace, or that's what you call those things as you switch between them. Anyway, it's really difficult to try to manage 10 different Slack accounts, 10 different Slack workspaces if you have 10 different open source projects, and Layer 5 has, quite a few. So hence we've just had one single Slack for up until today. We still have one single Slack, but since Meshery is our largest project and we're trying to help carry it forward into this next phase of its life cycle, into the incubation phase, we're renaming the Slack Meshery, even though there's a number of other projects that get satellite Meshery. If you've seen some of Meshery's diagrams, like some of the project diagrams, Meshery is the big rock in the middle, and there are a number of extensions and complementary projects. So in a lot of respects, the renaming of the Slack from Layer 5 to Meshery is aligned with that. Sort of Meshery is the big rock. I think Ijoma is on the call today, and she's working on one of the satellite projects, so to speak. She stewards a Helm plugin that helps Helm users plug into Meshery. That's a great example of one of those ecosystem projects. And so anyway, that was one announcement. As part of that same push to help ensure Meshery is ready for this next level, there are one of the ways to join today's meeting is you can go to meet.layer5.io/Meshery, and that will just open up this Zoom that we're all on. That's just a convenient way of like getting to this Zoom. Well, hey, there was layer 5 in that link. So let's make a new repo called meet.meshery.io/Meshery, I guess. Like, that'd be a little funny, but anyway, some of those references, we just want to drive some clarity. It's a little bit unfortunate maybe that I think some of the clarity that we attempt to drive in doing that as a distinction between the community and the project ends up having an inverted effect, because this community this Slack is called Meshery, but any number of other things go on, or it's controlled by the maintainers that are here. And it's a diverse collection of maintainers. Matthews was just speaking. He works at one organization. I don't know. It's an interesting phenomenon. If you look across the CNCF landscape with all of the projects there, they all get represented in a variety of ways. And it's really difficult for especially small companies, small organizations to keep a clear and crisp line between organization and project. And a lot of times it has the inverse effect, because if any of you are familiar with Crossplane, you might be readily understand that Upbound are the people behind it, and they're the ones that control the project. Same thing for Linkerd. Buoyant are the people behind that, and they are who control the project very directly. As a matter of fact, Buoyant or Linkerd is a CNCF graduated project, and they only had Buoyant maintainers when they went into graduation. And so there's a bunch of what would you say? Exceptions in a variety of projects. If you go look at Emissary Ingress, it's an incubated project. If you go look at what website to look at, that's linked prominently on their GitHub page. It's getambassador.io. Ambassador is the company behind Emissary Ingress. So it's just really difficult. Kubernetes has been around for 10 years up until earlier this year. Google is still running Kubernetes CI infrastructure. Somebody's got to foot the bill. Some organizations got to dedicate full-time people to focusing on helping steward the project. So it's a pretty natural thing that occurs. And so anyway, there's a couple of areas where we can help drive some clarity. And that's what those announcements are about, is like helping drive some of that. Well, I hope it drives clarity and not confusion. Comments and thoughts, questions? There's another item on here as you think about it, is the discussion forum. So there's a discuss.layer5.io. It's a discourse based instance of a discussion forum. It represents community-based questions, website-based questions, all kinds of discussion happen on that forum. As we look to get a new forum, discuss.meshery.io, and the same thing for the Slack channel, it causes what I consider to be undue burden on those that are here trying to answer questions in the first place. Now you got to answer them in two different places, and well, it's a challenge. It's not necessarily, I don't disagree with the direction of like having segregation. It's just a challenge. It's really difficult. You can see why most of the organizations that primarily support a project, especially small ones, end up blurring those lines all the time. So, and not in a nefarious way, just because there's a lot going on. There's a lot to handle. By the way, if you think about it, many of the CNCF projects, where's their Slack? Some of them have their own independent Slacks. Some of them just have a channel inside of the Kubernetes Slack or a channel inside of the CNCF Slack. If you go over and experience those channels and then compare that experience to the experience that you have in this Slack, I would encourage you to, I'd be curious to have you reflect on your experience and let me know which one you think is better, more welcoming, more encouraging, more uplifting, more enabling? I'd be curious to know. So good. All right. Comments, questions? Kapil is up. Oh, I guess Matthew is up with a component update on Meshery CTO.
Yes. So I will just give a little update. Nothing really moved in that area since last week. So basically what we have here is the list of the Meshery test plan we have to implement in Meshery CTL. Currently, there's nothing done. I have made some tests locally, and I have talked with Ria, if I'm right, and we will see how we can start about this. I've seen also in the Meshery CTL request for create a model build command, I think. So I just added it in that spreadsheet. And that's it for me related to Meshery CTL.
Thanks a lot,
Nice.
Matthew.
Yeah, nice. Hey, on this topic, there's something to toss in there. There's Meshery CTL is not a small component necessarily, or like it has a long history of of design specs that highlight what each command is, its purpose and what it's intended to do, and how it kind of should behave, and how that behavior should be, somewhat uniform in terms of UX with the other commands. There's a whole test plan that Matthew just had up. There's a centralized kind of very large design spec for Meshery CTL, along with a bunch of individual smaller ones. Of the 2 or 3 recently proposed new commands, like what is it? The model build and model init. Hey, we'll want to either make 2 individual design specs for those 2 individual commands, or we'll want to update the larger sort of central Meshery CLI Google Doc with what the commands are for and how they're intended to behave. For my part, I'll certainly help with that. I haven't been able to just yet, but that doesn't mean that anyone else can't go through and do that. I'll give the briefest of descriptions of those 2 and let Matthew and others think about whether or not they're even justified. Maybe it's like, look, we don't need these. So there's 2 commands that are proposed. For those of you who have ever created a Git repo through the command line, like you might use git init, and it would create I don't know what it does. It creates a Git repo. Like it creates a hidden .git folder, and it creates the scaffolding for a Git repo. Great. If you've ever created a Jekyll site, you might have done Jekyll init. Or if you've ever created a Gatsby site, Gatsby init. Or if you've ever created a blah, 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 insert. Sometimes you'll find that these commands have that these CLIs have an init command. In Meshery, Meshery has different things that you can create. One of the things that you can create with Meshery is a model. That model contains any number of components that help describe your infrastructure. These components are abstractions. It's kind of funny because there's a recently announced project, Crow, that thinks that the fact that they have an abstraction is like a new novel thing. And actually, Meshery has this in spades, abstractions over whatever you want to describe, because within a component, you can describe whatever you want to. You can orchestrate whatever you want to. Anyway, if you want to create a new model, how do you do that? Well, there's docs that articulate how to go about that. And there's a couple of ways. there's been a proposal on the table that suggests that we can improve that experience. That if you wanted to create a new model that might have any number of components inside of it, that an easy way to get started could be Meshery CTL model init, and that it would just create it would create that scaffolding, a couple of folders and a couple of starter files. Today, since we're covering this, maybe I'll share for just a moment in, oh, where are we? Wow, why is my mouse moving so slow? In Meshery docs, if you, so part of the current set of instructions for how you might create your own custom model, which I encourage everybody here to do, that'd be awesome. Like we should get your models published into the Meshery catalog. And what would you put inside of a model if you created one? Does it have to be super sophisticated and like intelligent about a particular type of infrastructure? No, you can make a model about whatever you want. If you're into anime and you want to have a couple of, like, if you want to be able to represent anime figures or pictures or designs or drawings, and you want Meshery to be able to model that as you go to maybe describe something visually, well, this collection of things here, the underneath tools in this category, there are 5 models. There's a model for Jira Service Desk, in case you use Jira as a ticketing system. Jira from Atlassian, they have Confluence and things. If you use Jira, well, they've published an operator. Their operator has 2 custom resource definitions, 2 CRDs. Meshery ingests those 2 CRDs, and we wrap some color around it and a logo, and we track its version, and we let you, since Atlassian, or I think it's Atlassian, maybe it was somebody else, but since someone has created a Jira Service Desk operator with 2 custom resources, they've published it somewhere on GitHub or in Artifact Hub or in some Helm repo. As a project, we've gone out and said, oh, we see that. We will ingest that into Meshery as a model. There's one model that represents the 2 custom resources that they have. So these are 2 components. If you create a project in Jira, well, you can articulate that here and configure it and have Meshery describe it. So you can capture it inside of a Meshery design, this thing that we're in, a Meshery design. I have no idea what they let you do with a particular project. It's this stuff, however they've created it. They let you create a project and give it a name and do whatever. Okay, great. If you wanted to make a model about Japanese anime or any kind of anime, you can. And maybe your anime, like if you had an anime figure here, your favorite character, maybe there's really nothing to configure, or maybe there is. Maybe you want to be able to let people give them a name or change the name, or that's it. Like maybe there's something to configure, maybe there isn't. There are all kinds of models that don't have things to configure, like this shape. It's a rhomboid. All right, rhomboid, what a name. If we click on this one and we go to configure it, well, there's nothing to configure. It's just a shape. Meshery doesn't do any orchestration of it. It just lets you say, yeah, it just lets you visually understand that this project BL is in our rhomboid, and our rhomboid is our test area, or whatever it means to you. So if you have anime that you want to use to create a model, that's all fine. Meshery, like I was saying before, Meshery is able to abstract a lot of different things and put them into components, and maybe it was anime. And so all I'm trying to do is say, hey, while I encourage anyone to create a model, a lot of you think like, yeah, as if I could do that. And it's like, no, you can. And there's a quick start guide in here to creating it. Please do. In fact, from my part, I would encourage you to publish a Japanese anime model here. It might be kind of nice for those that are trying to do AWS infrastructure designs, and maybe they're a huge anime fan. Maybe that's their whole thing. They have like a whole VPC it's named after anime characters, and like it'd be helpful to them. I don't know. I would look for the quick start guide for how to create a model.
In fact, if you go to catalog page, there it's linked. In fact, Souvik also shared. Add new model.
Oh, okay.
On the model page itself, the individual model page that we were on.
Oh, okay. So if we're here on a model, add new model. Nice. Okay, great. Oh, perfect. This is the quick start guide that I was just referring to. Hopefully these instructions would get you through creating a model. Lee, why are we talking about creating models and well, we were talking about the justification for a new command, a Meshery CTL model init. Well, can't you create models today? Yeah, you follow these instructions and you can. And what are these instructions? Like the core of these instructions say, hey, go ahead and take a copy of these sample spreadsheets that allow you to describe the fact that you're going to make a model about anime. Anyway, that you would fill in these sheets, and that these sheets give you some scaffolding that you would need to like follow along a templated creation, a templated description of what you want to use for your anime color icon, your anime white, dark mode, light mode icon. Great. Well, so this is one way of helping people create a model. The other way of helping people create a model would be on the command line, Meshery CTL model init, and to just give people this same file or a similar file. Does that make sense about the model init command and what its intention is? So like basically for the model init command, it would be to facilitate part of these instructions. It's like if you want to work inside a spreadsheet, go ahead. Or if you wanted to execute Meshery CTL model init, it would basically create the same, it would create a small set of folders and example components. Is everybody following me? When people don't say anything, I just keep talking and keep explaining until someone cries mercy and says, for the love of God, we understand, get it. Here's one, until someone interrupts, right? Here's another way of looking at this. Many of Meshery's models, you can browse the catalog and look through models like we just were. A lot of those models are also, oops, that's the wrong folder, available under this folder. And it takes a little while to load because there's a lot of models. So these are all the same models that you find inside the catalog. So I think we were looking at API 6 a second ago. If you open it up, if you look inside what's inside the model, well, we have a bunch of versions of the model. All right, great. Because API 6, it's its own project and it publishes its own releases, 2.6.1, 2.7, 2. Okay. And inside of that folder, so the Meshery CTL model init command, this is what would it do? It would create a folder. Inside the folder would be a couple of other folders and just a templated JSON file that people can go in and change out and say, oh, actually, the category for my anime stuff is shapes. It's just a shape, and the name of it is anime, and they would fill it in instead of like just as an alternative to working in a spreadsheet. Thoughts?
Yeah, in fact, we have many in chat, so they're echoing the same that you just shared.
Nice. Okay. There's a related. All right, great. So if you make a model you can have it in a folder. All right. What if I want to share my model with other people? You mean I got to like zip up this folder and give it to them? Yeah, you could zip it up and give it to them. Sure. Actually, that's one of the ways that Meshery supports the portability of models. Is just like a Docker container. Docker container is an OCI image, or not. I mean, I said that inappropriately. A Docker container image is a zip file. It's a tar.gz. It's a collection of files and folders. And Meshery, as a cloud native project, supports the zipping up of a model into an OCI image, into a container image, a Docker image, which means that you can take, if you create a model, a Meshery model, you can go check it into Docker Hub if you want to. Because when you export that model, it will be an OCI image. One of the things that we're kind of missing in the project is, well, what if I create one? I've described it here on my file system, and now I'm ready to import it into Meshery. There's different ways to do that. One of the ways expects that you would be importing an OCI image. Okay, but if I just have a collection of folders and files, how do I make an OCI image to be able to import? It's kind of this chicken before the egg thing. Like, there are answers to this today on how you import your custom model, but it could be more convenient if there was a Meshery CTL model build command. That build command would just take your local set of folders, zip it up into an OCI image. That's what the build command would do, just like Docker build. Except much, 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 much easier because it's just a collection of, YAML that it just zips up. So that's what those two commands are about. I figured I'd describe that. Everything that I just said can be regurgitated into a little better format for why we want these commands, why they would be helpful and are justified working on, and then how they should behave. If you look at the style guide for Meshery CLI, the style guide for Meshery CLI is inside Meshery docs. Contributing, if you're contributing, you might contribute to various things. Oh, there's the CLI. Oh, there's some design principles. This is the style guide. Yeah, this is the style guide for how it is that we expect what the UX is like for CLI commands. And so I think this is the style guide. There might be one other. Anyway, there's a couple of these that describe it very well. This talks about how to create a design spec and how to do that, how to go through that process. Again, we could create separate ones, or they could be added to the main Meshery CLI design spec. I think it's this one. If this goes on for a long time, nope. I think this one, this is an example of one. Anyway, I didn't mean to digress and continue to digress, but there's a lot for just that component. Any questions or comments that we didn't get to? There are some of you that I think that would like to work on it, and some of you whose names are sort of associated with maybe getting some of that done. We'll want to start with a design spec first, and that doesn't mean we have to go slow and it's a big arduous review process. But somebody's got to put something on paper, so we're in agreement with like what we're trying to accomplish. And what Matthew had shared, the spreadsheet that he had shared, is like a perfect place to just start at a very high level. It's like, yeah, we could use this starter command to like help people create a custom model. It would just like give them some scaffolding. Where should we put that command? What should it be called? You could start in the spreadsheet down below under experimental, saying, well, this, and it would high level, it would do that. And then beyond that, just a little more of a write-up. Like it doesn't have to be a thesis or. But part of having it into that spreadsheet brings it into the fold of what Matthew was just sharing. He was saying, look, we've got all these commands and subcommands. and they can run on Linux, and Meshery CLI can run on these various OSs. Here's how we're testing them, and here's the status of those tests. Good. We should probably go to the next topic before I keep explaining things.
Thanks a lot, Lee, for that much descriptive detail on the two commands. And in fact, many contributors have come on to explaining those in their terms. So anybody is still not able to get it, you can take a look at the chat. That should help you out. All right. So Amit, do you want to share about your migration?
Yeah. So currently we are migrating the material UI version 4 to 5. We are using the MUI for the Meshery UI. So from the last meeting, there is not much update on to the not too much activity in the Meshery UI section, but like we are migrating the canvas and the extension of the Meshery to the MUI version 5. So these are some of the component that we migrated to the MUI version 5 or the system in the last week. And all there is some little amount of work is left for the migration, and by the end of this week we are going to finish this the MUI migration version 4 to 5 with the all of the extension and the Meshery UI. Is there any feedback?
Yeah, I've got one, just I've got a really quick point to make kind of in context of this. In context of these changes happening through the web-based client, this has an effect on the end-to-end tests that Meshery runs as a project. We use Playwright largely as the tool to help facilitate end-to-end tests. The point that I wanted to make here was to help with some of my discussion with Yash Sharma on what an end-to-end test is. And we should probably go publish these terms. I don't know if we have in the past. It's certainly been a discussion in the past, and I think we have congealed it any number of times in the past. I don't know if we wrote it down though, but the definition that I'm hoping that we can agree to in terms of what an end-to-end test is, it is an impersonation of a user, of what the end user would be doing. So there are largely two significant Meshery UXs, user experiences, that people can have with Meshery. One is in the web-based Meshery UI. When we say UX, probably most of us think of the web-based experience. The other UX, the other interface that people have with Meshery is Meshery CTL, Meshery CLI. It is a REST API client. It's a client of Meshery server. In the same way, so is Meshery UI. It is a REST-based API client. Both of them have a UX to offer. One is offered through a terminal. One of them is offered through a web browser. In both cases, we should have end-to-end tests, maybe one facilitated through BATS as a framework in Meshery CLI, maybe. The other one currently is facilitated through Playwright as the end-to-end test framework. We are impersonating users and looking and to assert and define what a test is, and to assert that an end-to-end test has passed or failed. You would be looking for output in the same way that a user is. So when you're looking for that output in the browser, you're looking at it through the Playwright as a tool, just as our tool of choice. And we're expecting a notification, whatever the user is expecting. Notification, a change in a redirection to there, whatever they're expecting, that's what we want to focus on. Like, the internals of all the things that happened, who knows? The Playwright isn't going to know that, but it is going to see what the user sees. And that's what the end-to-end test is focused on, the user experience and impersonating the experience that a user has. In the same way for BATS or some framework that we use for the tests, that when you run Meshery CTL command, you expect a certain response like new model created or whatever the response is. It can be dangerous to match just the words that come back in a notification, because those can change. You need to make sure you update your end-to-end test. But Yash, that's what I mean by an end-to-end test. Yash, if you're thinking of testing the Meshery API, the REST server in Meshery server itself, that's a different vector. Like that would be an integration test, or is probably the genre or the category of tests that those fall under. Of the thing that I've been asking for of you is end-to-end tests of existing Meshery server functionality, all of the functionality that is available to anyone who chooses to use the local provider. So hopefully that clarifies our
Thank you.
discussion.
Yeah, that clarifies more.
Okay. All right, cool. Yeah, Amit, great. So Amit, you're saying you're on track for like Friday.
Yeah.
Friday, we're all done. We're on MUI v5.
Yeah.
And then for those of you who are around and want to help the project get to MUI v6, you know, we'll start on Monday.
Yeah.
Really?
I think so.
Yeah.
I really thought it was just, so we just completed MUI5 and we're going to MUI6?
Don't make me spit, man. Don't make me more upset about this than I already am. Like, yeah, it took a long time. Yeah. Yes, fine. Go ahead, make fun of it. Make fun of it. Go ahead.
I'm ready to slit my wrist. I gotta work on the JavaScript code and it's moving quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thanks to Amit. He has been putting a lot of effort into this particular, item. So for those of you who might be interested into this kind of work, there's links to Meshy test plan and also UI migration training that we had on the sites meeting. So go to take a look. You'll find that in chat. We'll be quickly taking a look at the point 9 roadmap, and if you want to be a part of this, milestone, you can check that out and can comment on any of the area where you think you are comfortable leading. The link to that is also in chat. Let's finally get started with topics, and the first one is from Kapil. So Kapil, are you all set?
Yeah, I'll keep this short. Let me just give me permission to screen share. Okay, so I just wanted you guys to like bring you up to speed on my progress. Basically, with whatever changes I've done to the UI and the server. So I've resolved the issue around a server panic when you submit a JSON, and I've got the UI to now kind of reach this state, which it was failing to do so. Now, what I need answer or say feedback on is one thing is. So why we were having a issue rendering this panel was, let me just go here. So here there is something called, so since we moved to MUI5, expansion panel details was a component that was available in MUI4 and now is available as accordion details in Systent and basically MUI5. So do you want to keep this naming, this expansion details, like basically we call it expansion because we have a like an opinionated components that have the same name. So what's the opinion from UI side? Like, do you want to keep this naming or do you want to completely move to say accordion summary and accordion details?
Yeah, actually, just use the accordion summary and accordion details naming because like it's from system, so stay consistent. We know like what component is being styled. So in case we have a like opinionated styling, just append the styled suffix to it. Yeah.
Okay, so just to understand a bit, what I would do is, so if I was working on this one, there is already a opinionated style that is being applied
Yeah.
to this accordion. So I would just rename this here to say accordion panel or something like that.
Yeah, like you would rename this to accordion styled and the bottom one as
Okay.
accordion summary styled, and just that should do.
Okay, cool. Okay, but on the like bigger picture of things, I just wanted to have an opinion from everybody. So today we are rendering our own charts. We have the component completely written by us. Everything is done here. Like, and in my experience of reporting with React, like whenever we've tried to have reporting done via React, we've always felt that embedding something was better than this is my personal experience. It does not come from any, I don't have a study to back this up, but Basically, generally, like for example, Tableau, embedding Tableau has been better than doing charts in React itself. Embedding any other like dashboarding platform has been better. So, what is the kind of opinion on having Grafana embedded here instead of us doing the whole charts on our own?
Embedded like as an
Yeah, sort of iframe.
iframes, security issues, the lack of native experience, and the actually maybe before I say more, Abid, I think I might have cut you off.
Yeah, actually, I was just saying like what a suggestion like to not reinvent the wheel ourselves of like creating all of these customers, like that definitely makes sense. Like probably we shouldn't be like doing the hard working, but
So
like
I
and
have
same thing
one
like
option.
then there is like iframes have their own issues. So like I think what I was going to say is kind of a middle ground. Like if we can get the components, like if Grafana is an React library or some kind of UI library that we can just leverage, so we get the middle ground. We don't invent everything ourselves, and we still have control.
Which is what
Okay.
Billboard JS performs, right? A charting
Yeah.
library. So a little bit of backstory, good questions, Kapil. Like a little bit of backstory here is that is that Meshery is trying to be complementary to an investment that people may already have with Grafana or a different dashboarding tool. The part of the idea, so these concepts go back, these justifications, this line of thought kind of goes back about 5 years now, and that is that Meshery isn't intended to displace their use of Grafana, but to complement it and to not frustrate them with like, oh, yet another single pane of glass kind of a thing. Like it's not intended to have all the whiz bang features that Grafana might have, but it's to say, hey, there are some metrics that Meshery produces that it represents itself. And alongside those metrics, you may well want to compare against existing metrics that you're already managing. And to the extent that you want to do that here, great. To the extent that you'd rather scrape Meshery's metrics and represent them separately and different, great. Hopefully that's not, well, yeah, whether that's too much work or not, like I think it's a good, we can justify why it is that some people might want to do one or the other. Some aspects of what Meshery does or has done in the past, we've sort of winced and said like, look, if we don't like in this case, if we didn't visually represent in a chart some metric that Meshery had produced, people, and we just expected like they've already got an existing infrastructure investment, we'll just facilitate that they can show it somewhere else. It's like, great. When they're running in production, maybe that's how they're doing it. But to come and test Meshery and use it initially is like, well, I don't see the value here. I guess did a performance test, but I can't really see what the metrics look like, or didn't give me its analysis, or gave me the analysis in written form, and I don't really have a hard time understanding what the hell that was. And like, if it was visual, that'd be great. Oh, I've got to hook up my Grafana. I got to go get a request from my other IT guys and like put in a new blah blah blah. And so, like some of what Meshery does, like some of what the adapters do of like deploying a service mesh, well, that was like boring table stakes stuff that you can go to the individual service mesh itself and deploy it itself. We were just trying to help facilitate people exploring that infrastructure. So it was like some of this, it was like we winced a bit, like, wow, we got to do it just so that people can, in a very quick time to value way, see that there's value here, kind of believe in it, understand it, use it, get some value out of it. And then depending on if they wanted to continue to use this, great. If they wanted to hook it up somewhere else, great. But that either way, with a charting library like Billboard JS, there are others that are rival it or maybe are better than it or worse than it. But that what we could do through the Grafana SDK, which is kind of from our experience with it, hasn't been a well-managed SDK, but using that SDK that we could quickly say, hey, we can just ingest all of your existing charts and then let you pick and choose which of those charts you'd like to show as a panel here or as a chart here. And that was that had been the thrust of the gist of what we had done.
Okay. Okay, then maybe let me continue down this path of improving what we have right now to a state where we consistently get panels. Like whenever I do a valid JSON, I should get a panel and I should get the data out. I'll keep doing that, but I'll be on the lookout for something. Still, like I still feel that we can do something better, because having a React component written that just mimics what Grafana would have done still doesn't feel like completely right to me. Maybe I'll have to find something that I can fit in as a solution here.
Yeah, it's kind of, yeah, I don't disagree. I agree. And I would also say, like, hey, if you want to go use, this is just a random kind of example. If you want to go use the playground, it's a live Kubernetes cluster. So we ask that you sign in. So you got to create a user account. And then what if you forget your password? And then how do you verify your user? Because you got to have an email system to send an email verification. You got to have these, like, we have to do all this other minutia just so that people can have an experience. And it's kind of the same thing here. Is like, is the project, is this an observability and telemetry project? No. Does it
No.
need to have some of that? Like, it needs to have some of that to be able to deliver part of what in other, like there are, okay, good. So that's what's been done to date. There's been, for a couple of releases now, a proposal for an overhaul of it to make it much more like
Yeah.
highly, yeah.
Right. Yeah, so basically the idea right now, so bigger picture idea right now is whatever we have right now, I'm gonna fix whatever we can get. And basically I want to get to a state where if you submit a panel, you can reliably expect it to get some data back, have a panel there that goes for the demo on wherever you want to demo it, maybe the incubator proposal, I don't know where, but basically wherever we next demo this, that's what's going to be there available. And then the overhaul we'll think about after I've delivered this.
That's perfect. Hey, just as you and as you go through this, you'll start to form, have more ideas and form even more opinions about what that might look like next. Perfect. I'll say one thing real fast just to help expand how you might think of what might be next. And that is that the models that we were just referring to, where Meshery models your AWS API gateway or whatever. And inside of there, it has a couple of components that you can configure various aspects of the API gateway. Great. And it also has maybe some relationships that are described for how the API gateway can relate to your REST API or whatever. Models have certain capabilities today. A part of the thinking here has been, and part of that, what we should include in a proposal for something of the overhaul of this telemetry area is the inclusion of you could call it a monitoring profile or a telemetry profile but like to be able to on a specific per model basis, is to say, well, yeah, if you import this model, Meshery now understands what the AWS API gateway is. It didn't know what that was before. Oh, it's going to be purple, and it's going to have, and it has these relationships, and you can configure these and also, if you are running one, Meshery can monitor. Meshery knows that, like, and you've got your alert rules defined, and you need to scrape against this, and how frequently, or that's part of that. A lot of what I just said is cloudy vision, or like maybe, but if you think about the fact that there would be a descriptor of that JSON board that is is a non-standard standard, so to speak, given Grafana's popularity and its somewhat pervasive use, that if you've got a descriptor in JSON, then maybe it's that same JSON descriptor that we would include inside of a model. So you can propagate those models and say, hey, this is how we monitor this piece of infrastructure, and this is how we orchestrate it, and this is how we configure it, and this is how what a model can do can expand. Yeah.
Yeah, Sangram has also shared some comments, and he's sick, so it's possible that he may not be able to speak. But Sangram, do you by any chance want to share this verbally to like speak
If
it?
we have time, yes. If there are others in the line that have important agenda items, we can pass. But
Yeah, so if you can quickly share, so that would be okay, I guess.
So see, my inputs are more from an end user perspective, and sometimes again, what I summarize from all of this is it's all good from a developer's perspective, but we also have to look at it from a usability perspective. What would make sense is once we are able to add Grafana to the metrics section. So let's say I add a Grafana URL based on the permissions. Let's say dashboards are public. We should automatically see a drop down of all the dashboards there, and the end user can just select the dashboard and then select which charts to plot there. That would probably be the next addition to the way this whole thing works and what we want to really show to users in terms of performance metrics and all of that. And then maybe eventually look at all of the other things that we spoke about. But yeah, I mean, just to kind of highlight that this entire thing about JSON actually has to go to Grafana. Right now it's in Prometheus, but this should actually be in Grafana because the JSON dashboards come from Grafana. And if we can show a drop down of all the dashboards based on permissions, that would make more sense. I mean, for someone like me, I wouldn't know if it is an iframe or if it is a embedded code or if it is a JSON to that matter. I know Prometheus and Grafana dashboard creators who probably don't know a lot of JSON. So they know how to plot the charts and all of that, but not to the extent of understanding JSON. So yeah, I mean, again, some of the inputs that I had. Thank you.
Yeah, totally. I'm compelled to, since we've got folks here that are speaking intelligently towards this and are working on it intelligibly, like Sangram and Kapil, it's definitely worth spending a couple more moments to help advance the discussion. So one of those things is that, so there's these, there's a bunch of stuff that needs to be changed. First of all, these two connections, or the way that you can go into Meshery settings at a global level for your server and configure a connection to either Grafana or Prometheus, that was cool back when a few years ago. Anymore, what if you want Meshery to talk to multiple Prometheuses or import from multiple Grafanas, or like these need to turn into connections, which Meshery is now in the 5 years ago when those were created. Now Meshery you can come over here and register many different connections and have that's one thing that's in need of an overhaul. The other thing is that, if there's a Grafana board that you can describe here, the intention actually was, man, this really is 5 years old. The intention here was that, no, actually, if you have Prometheus if you have Prometheus queries that you want to paste in here, like, hey, good, great, bring those. Meshery will readily start to track those for you, and you can assign those to a particular chart, and then maybe a couple of them to the same chart, so you can compare a certain. And that this is, this has been a steaming pile of poo for 3 years. The first 2 years it was good, and then anyway. So Kapil might want to wash his hands after the call. And then exactly. I want to reinforce what Sangram said, which is if you were to connect to a Prometheus or Grafana, that even now if its behavior was working as it should or as it was, you'd establish a connection to a Grafana. It would read all of the available dashboards. Thank you. Yeah. And then it would say, oh, you click a drop down list and here's your available dash. There's to exactly Sangram's point, it's like the people who are using this, who cares about iframe?
Gotcha. Yeah, this could be a good improvement. I'll look at this once I have some stuff fixed here.
But PromQL, the current JSON field does not accept PromQL, right? Because I tried putting a PromQL, it didn't take it. If I'm not wrong.
Yeah, so there's a way to kind of put it. So you have to put the PromQL in the panel expression.
Okay.
And
see,
there are
someone like me wouldn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, completely. I read the code, read into conditions, then I got to know, oh, here is it's expected. So I wanted to overhaul the docs on this also, Just okay, I'll put this in chat. You can move forward, Vivek. We've taken a lot of time. Okay.
Thanks a lot, folks. So we are already 2 minutes over, but I wonder if Yash Sharma will be able to quickly cover this item and also make some call for volunteers, as there are a couple of folks who are interested into working into this area. So yes, can you please go next and cover this?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Vivek. I'll quickly share as we are already on time. So I'll just share the screen. I hope my screen is also visible. So, okay, I'll quickly share the status right now. We are with the end-to-end test in the local provider. So in this spreadsheet, we are tracking how many total number of features we have listed for the local provider and how many are covered already. So we have 71. We already have successfully running 9 number of features UI tests covered and running up and running. And the previous contributor who was leading that area are not able to continue. So we are also looking for call for volunteers who can come and contribute in this area. So in Meshery, we have 2 providers. Like you can enter in Meshery as a cloud user, or you can enter in Meshery as a guest user. So this is something what we call a local provider. So for local provider, you can, if you want to go and contribute in the end-to-end test for the UI, you can easily go to the docs.meshery.io. I will share the link over here. It explains very well how you can get started, what setups you need to do, and how you can do testing in the local provider. So before we discuss more on that, and if you have any questions, I would love to know if anyone have any question on the status right now and how we are moving forward, if there is any question on that. Okay. So if you are looking to contribute in this area, you can reach out to me and tag me in the Slack channel. I would love to help you. And I will share the chat. I will share the link of this particular docs in the chat. It clearly mentions how you can go and contribute in the and with the testing. And I hope it does mention everything. If you get any issue, any troubleshooting issue, ping me anytime in the Slack channel. I would love to help you in that. We also have a recorded session. You can go and check out the YouTube video on Layer 5 channel. It mentions clearly how you can go and test that too. So I'll share the link. Yeah, that's from my side. It was a quick update on what we are right now with the end-to-end test on the machine.
Just a small question. Do we only test the UI or we do test APIs also?
With Play, we only test the UI right now.
Okay.
APIs are tested while you test the UI. In order for but it's a good question because are we just going to test the APIs explicitly or test them implicitly through the UI and through the UI at the moment?
Thank you, bro.
Thanks, Shias. Uh, so yeah, we are 5 minutes over the time. And so I thank you all for joining the call and participating, sharing your updates. Before we end the call, I'll be quickly sharing with you the calendar. So all the community and project meeting that we have throughout the week, you can get updates on all of them through this calendar page. So it's also in chat. You can subscribe to it to get the notifications. With that, we'll see you next Wednesday. Till then, bye.